I think art is art, and you have a right to perform where you want to perform. I agree with you, Joy. I can't sing a lick, but I certainly, and I have not been asked, but if I were asked, it would be a hard no.
For purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain.
Carrie Underwood was never one to chase controversy. For years, she stood out for her graceful demeanor, soaring vocals, and a steadfast refusal to get tangled in petty feuds. Yet overnight, this beloved country superstar found herself under a heated spotlight, accused of normalizing a person some labeled a convicted felon, boycotted by furious social media users, and even scolded on national television. How did it come to this? In a matter of days, the narrative flipped from praising her all-American charm to branding her a polarizing figure caught in the crossfire of partisan outrage. The real question is, did Carrie Underwood do anything more than simply show pride in her country? From screaming headlines to an avalanche of tweets, the uproar has been impossible to ignore. It all centers on a single event, a performance at a presidential inauguration. By all accounts, an invitation to sing for a newly sworn-in president is a once-in-a-lifetime honor. Yet for Carrie, it triggered a viral storm of accusations, condemnation, and threats. Some demanded her downfall, some applauded her courage, and others could only shake their heads at the mayhem. What truly happened behind the scenes? And why did this seemingly uncontroversial act ignite such a firestorm? Stick around, this story might not be what you expect.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. It is a rabies-infested hen house. Tony's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense.
I can't sing a lick, but I certainly, and I have not been asked, but if I were asked, it would be a hard no.
Long before the drama, Carrie Underwood was the quintessential success story. A farm girl from rural Oklahoma who catapulted to international fame thanks to a reality singing competition. Viewers watched her grow from a nervous contestant to a powerhouse vocalist, sealing her victory with heartfelt country tunes that resonated across America. Her first few releases broke records left and right, earning her top Billboard spots, Grammy Awards, and the loyalty of millions. The media crowned her America's sweetheart, a term rarely used without some measure of cynicism. But in Carrie's case, fans and critics agreed. She was genuine. Unlike many in the limelight, Carrie was known for avoiding dramatic entanglements. You hardly ever heard her name tied to messy scandals or crass publicity stunts. She wasn't out there courting tabloid headlines or sparking social media wars. Instead, she focused on her craft, dropping chart-topping albums, selling out enormous arenas, and staying relatable to the everyday listeners who adored her music. People saw her as that down-to-earth figure who never drifted too far from her small-town roots. Even as her star power soared, she maintained a level of warmth and authenticity that's painfully rare in Hollywood.
You know the words, help me out here. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
But that squeaky clean image came with a double-edged sword. Once you stray from the safe path, the public can pounce. Carrie largely steered clear of political topics or divisive social issues. She didn't label herself with any particular partisan stance or champion any controversial cause, at least not openly. That's why the inauguration gig took everyone by surprise. In a political climate that had grown especially cutthroat, viewers assumed she'd keep steering clear. Yet this next step changed everything. The phone call that sparked the chaos might have seemed innocent enough. someone from the inaugural committee reached out, asking Carrie to perform at the upcoming swearing-in ceremony for the new president. For many artists, such a request is the pinnacle of patriotic pride. It's a chance to be a voice of unity as the country transitions from one administration to another, an event widely watched around the globe. Typically, performers of Carrie's stature receive cheers for saying yes, but these were not normal times.
It was the episode of You when you're on The View.
Please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
Once Carrie confirmed her appearance, she released a brief statement about why she accepted. In her words, it was about celebrating our shared nation, bridging divides, and looking ahead to a fresh chapter. On the surface, that seems about as non-controversial as it gets. At least, it would have been in a previous era. This time around, political lines were drawn in quicksand, and anyone who performed for this particular president was accused of taking sides in a fierce national dispute. Within hours of the announcement, social media lit up. Some fans eagerly congratulated her, pointing out how perfect Carrie's voice would be for an all-American anthem. Others expressed confusion. Why get tangled in an event that's become so politicized? But then came the hostility. Online activists and certain commentators blasted her with accusations. How dare you normalize him? How can you claim to love your country and support that man? They labeled Carrie a collaborator in some grand scheme, one that many believed signaled the downfall of democracy itself.
If you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Tony's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is.
It didn't take long for the virtual pitchforks to appear. Platforms like Twitter and Facebook buzzed with users blasting Carrie Underwood for celebrating a national disgrace. Some repeated claims about him being a convicted felon, though no one could point to a specific conviction or jail time. The phrase took on a life of its own. She's normalizing a crook, folks hollered, or she's endorsing a known criminal. Lost in the clamor was any tangible evidence of wrongdoing. It was all about the narrative. Before long, hashtags like #CancelCarrie Underwood started making the rounds. Staunch critics demanded refunds on her concerts, threatened to boycott her merchandise, and insisted streaming services drop her music. The meltdown seemed surreal, especially when you realize Carrie hadn't made a fiery political speech or endorsed any policies. She simply agreed to sing patriotic tunes in a nonpartisan setting, an inauguration that has historically featured performers from all walks of life. Yet, in the midst of the backlash, another chorus arose, fans who championed her courage. They argued that standing on a stage to honor her country, no matter who the president is, reflects a deeper dedication to the nation itself. Carrie's supporters applauded her refusal to be bullied by loud voices on either side. Many pointed out the irony. A singer trying to unify was being torn down for that very effort. As the buzz grew, one daytime panel, often nicknamed the Spewers by critics, dived into the controversy headfirst. Known for hot takes and boisterous debates, this group of co-hosts tackled the Carrie Underwood issue with vigor. One member slammed Carrie's choice, declaring it a betrayal of American values. She questioned aloud, "How can you love your country and also stand beside a man who wants to destroy it?" Another co-host insisted she would never appear at such an event, labeling it normalizing a convicted felon. Though some tried to moderate the conversation, the sensationalist remarks stole the show. The insinuation was that Carrie's patriotism was misplaced, or that she was naive at best and complicit at worst. Viewers watching from home were left wondering, did Carrie truly cross some sacred line, or was she merely fulfilling a time-honored tradition? Over the next few days, the daytime panel couldn't seem to let go of the topic. Each time Carrie's name came up, certain voices would rant about her role in propping up an unworthy administration. A few half-hearted attempts at fairness surfaced. Let's not ruin her entire career over a performance, but they were quickly drowned out by the more sensational voices. This on-air chaos fueled social media, where clips from the show circulated with dramatic headlines and sound bites. For many, the co-host's stance seemed like a witch hunt against a woman who did nothing more than use her voice to sing "America the Beautiful." While critics and talk show hosts lobbed accusations, an unexpected group of defenders emerged. High-profile country figures like John Rich took to social media to say, in essence, Carrie Underwood is showing more courage than anyone else in the industry. He challenged other big-name artists who also quietly supported that president to step forward instead of letting Carrie take all the flack. Suddenly, a new conversation began. If performing at an inauguration is such a crime, why are so many big stars hiding their own sympathies? This wave of support revealed a deeper split within country music. Some longtime Carrie fans argued that the genre always prided itself on patriotism. So why should she be crucified for living out that tradition? Others suggested that behind closed doors, many artists likely agreed with Carrie's stance but feared retaliation from media outlets and record labels. After all, no one wants to face the avalanche of hate that Carrie encountered. Meanwhile, Carrie herself remained notably calm. She wasn't delivering fiery comebacks or airing personal grievances. She simply went forward with her performance, belting out the national anthem and patriotic songs with the poise and skill that made her famous in the first place. After the event, she posted gratitude for everyone who tuned in and said she hoped the performance brought a bit of unity. It was a measured response to a crisis that, in any other era, might never have been a crisis at all. Looking back at history, this wasn't the first time country stars faced backlash for stepping outside the accepted lines. Years ago, the Dixie Chicks criticized a sitting president and were swiftly blacklisted from radio. Many conservative listeners cheered that boycott then, only for the script to flip years later. Now, progressives wanted Carrie canceled for singing at a ceremony some deemed unacceptable. The common thread: one side tries to silence artists whenever politics swirl into the equation. The difference is, Carrie Underwood weathered the storm without losing her grounding. Major labels didn't drop her, her tour dates continued to sell out. Her album sales remained strong. Sure, a portion of her fan base may have walked away in disgust, but a fresh wave arrived, drawn by her resilience. In the end, the music industry is about profit. Carrie Underwood, with her powerhouse voice and clean track record, is too valuable a commodity to discard over a fleeting scandal. The business side recognized that this fiasco would blow over as soon as the public found another target. What's more fascinating is how the entire fiasco exposed the double standards lurking in entertainment. Folks who once condemned boycotts began chanting for Carrie's cancellation, and those who previously cheered free speech were quick to judge her for using hers. The real lesson? The debate was never just about one performer. It's about a culture that demands absolute allegiance to one viewpoint, leaving zero room for nuance. In the grand scheme, Carrie Underwood's so-called controversy stands as a cautionary tale about the fickleness of public opinion. When she accepted that inaugural invitation, she believed she was doing her patriotic duty, honoring her nation with a timeless anthem during a peaceful transfer of power. Instead, she walked straight into a political tempest that turned her into either a hero or a villain overnight. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. She's a performer who saw an opportunity to bring people together, not a figurehead for any partisan agenda. Yet, her story shines a light on the hypocrisy that seeps into public discourse. People who preach tolerance can become the biggest bullies when confronted with opposing perspectives. Cancel culture bobs and weaves, switching targets according to which side happens to be outraged this week. Through it all, Carrie Underwood kept singing, focusing on her craft and the fans who genuinely appreciate her music. The critics moved on, as they always do, and the next social media meltdown beckoned them away. In the end, Carrie's career remains robust, her reputation largely intact among those who matter most: the people who listen to her songs, buy her albums, and show up to hear her sing. She didn't bend to the outrage mob, nor did she lash out in retaliation. Perhaps that's the real triumph, standing firm in her decision despite the uproar and reminding everyone that you can love your country even when others insist you should be silent. If this episode reveals anything, it's that authenticity can withstand even the fiercest wave of condemnation. Carrie Underwood didn't set out to become a lightning rod for controversy, but when the storm arrived, she faced it with composure. Maybe that's what true patriotism and true artistry really looks like.